Hello, and thank you for joining me again today on the Finding Hope After Loss podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can really help the show reach more loss and infertility families by taking a moment to leave a positive review or rating on Apple or Spotify. Check us out on Patreon for exclusive bonus content. Just go to patreon.com/Finding Hope After Loss. You can also check out more information about the episode in the show notes at journeyforjasmine.com. Today, I am talking with Selina. In this episode, she shares her journey through infertility, PCOS, neonatal loss, and high-risk pregnancy. Her first pregnancy ended in heartbreak when her daughter was born after PPROM at 25 weeks and passed away after 11 days. Selina later welcomed her rainbow baby through surrogacy and is now pregnant again after another round of IVF. She opens up about the challenges of trusting her body, the grief that reshapes relationships, and how women with PCOS are often dismissed in healthcare. Hello, everyone. Today I am here with Selina. Selina, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Selina. I currently live in the Chicagoland area in a little suburb. I have a rainbow baby or a baby in heaven and a 4-year-old rainbow baby, and currently pregnant right now. I'm a stay-at-home mom and enjoying life as much as I can with chasing a kid and being pregnant at the same time.
Oh yeah, that's really rough. It's like you're so grateful for it, but at the same time, it's really hard and really, really exhausting.
Oh yeah. You're definitely grateful, but then you're just you're zapped.
Do you mind sharing a little bit more about your last journey?
Yeah. So I guess it starts a long time ago. I was diagnosed with PCOS when I was a teenager. And I guess I was very naive to what PCOS does. I just thought it caused the heavy periods and, just all that fun stuff. And when I finally was starting to start a family, I didn't realize that the PCOS was going to cause the infertility. So my husband and I, we tried for about 3 to 4 years before we sought IVF. And after a round of IVF, luckily we got pregnant with our first embryo transfer. However, after 25 weeks, I went into my water broke, so PPROM. And the hospital tried to slow down my labor once it happened. However, our daughter was born at about 25 weeks, 5 days, and which is considered a micro preemie. She was just so tiny and just perfect. She was in the NICU for about 11 days. And anybody who knows how the NICU life is, it's just a roller coaster of emotions. I don't even know if that is the best way to explain it. It's just so many ups, so many downs. It's just this wild ride. And she was with us for 11 days before we had to take her off life support because she was just super sick. Yeah, so that was how we lost our first. Her name was Luna. She was small but mighty. And that was, probably the first loss I've ever experienced in my life was, my first daughter.
I love her name, though. It's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
Loss is just something I feel like none of us can ever fully be prepared for.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever think that this would happen to you?
No, this sounds it sounds so naive, but when we were going through the fertility treatment, obviously it's scary, right? Is IVF going to work? Are we going to get embryos, right? There was all that stress there. And, of course we had embryo loss throughout the journey. And when we got pregnant on the first transfer, I was wow, luck is on our side. This is amazing. After 4 years, we finally are going to, have a baby in our arms. And then out of nowhere, my water breaks. And then a few days later, our daughter is born. And then a couple, week and so later, she passes away. And it's just, I feel I was in a state of shock for a long time because I just couldn't comprehend how we were just in such a high and it's such an exciting time in our lives just for it to completely turn around to the opposite, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like you're never prepared for loss, right? Like, especially, people, I think that's why it's so uncomfortable for people to talk about pregnancy loss and child and infant loss, because like when we think of like children and kids and stuff, we never think that like they could be taken away so young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. It definitely makes us all uncomfortable because obviously we would all love to live in a world where we never lost any babies or children. And just thinking about it is horrible. So then we don't want to talk about it. But then that keeps people who have been through it from talking about their babies. So it's like this
Exactly.
endless cycle of not talking about it and it doesn't solve anything.
Exactly. No, exactly how it is. So,
Yeah, and we went through infertility as well. And I remember thinking, I have PCOS too. And I remember thinking, okay, infertility is the hard part.
mm-hmm,
Like we got pregnant. Okay, this is gonna be, I don't know why I thought this. I'm like, it's gonna be smooth sailing now. Like it's gonna
mm-hmm.
be great. And
Yep.
then yeah, not so much.
Exactly. No, that's exactly how I felt. It was like, okay, the infertility for 4 years, like that sucks, like the IVF, it sucked. But once I'm pregnant, it's rainbows and butterflies. And then it wasn't, right? So it's just, yeah, that like, I felt like so naive, back then thinking that way.
So then after the loss, did you try again right away or did you take a break?
Yeah. So our story is like all over the place. So after losing Luna, the doctors just couldn't give me an explanation to why my water broke. Like they had like a bunch of theories, but they couldn't promise anything. They couldn't promise anything in future pregnancies. And so for a little bit there, I was like, okay, we're not getting pregnant. Like I can't do this again. Like this is just awful. Like if they can't guarantee a healthy pregnancy or like, like at least a better success rate, like I can't do this. And then after like a month or so went by, like my husband and I were like, you know what, like we want to be parents. Like that is just the core in both of us. Like being parents is always what we both wanted to do. And so we, I had, it was like right around the time where like the benefits came out at work, and my job announced that that they gave a new benefit where it was $35,000 towards surrogacy or adoption. And I was like, okay, like we have these embryos, like maybe we could do surrogacy. And that was just like a wild thought, right? Like I didn't really think it was actually going to come to fruition. And so we did a lot of research, like months of research, like about a month of research of like surrogacy and, how does it go? Like, what are the steps? And then one day I put myself out there. I went to this like Facebook group and I was like, hey, this is our story. We're looking for a surrogate. We have embryos ready. And I got a couple people who like messaged me and reached out to me. But then there was just this one person that like, it was just like this instant connection. Like I just felt like we were like family or like friends, and we just got along so well. We talked for a couple weeks, and she ended up being our surrogate. And it was just an incredible experience. And I'm very fortunate that at the time I had a job that helped us afford that, because it's not very accessible for a lot of people. But the surrogacy, like it was just this magical experience for us. And our surrogate to this day, we still talk to her. The birth was just, it gave me a lot of hope that not all birth stories are scary and traumatic. And our surrogate was just a very good support system for us as well. She was amazing.
Was it hard for you? Like, did you have to think about, because there can be like some grief and some guilt or just different feelings surrounding you not being the one to carry the pregnancy? Is that anything you had to deal with?
Surprisingly, I did not feel that. I think I was always scared trying to get to each milestone with a surrogate, right? So like, after the embryo transfer, did it work, right? Like, okay, can we get to 12 weeks? Can we get past that 25-week milestone that we couldn't get past? I never really felt, that those feelings are completely valid. And I know some women feel that way. But to me, I think a lot of my like fear of being pregnant again like helped me avoid those feelings. Because for me, it was like this was the only way that it was going to work at the time. That's what I felt. I was a little worried about bonding with my daughter because, like, when you're pregnant, you do a lot of bonding with that baby as the mother, right? Like, you're feeling the kicks, you're getting all those feelings and the hormones. So one thing I did was I worked with a lactation consultant to actually induce lactation, and it was somehow successful, and I was able to breastfeed my daughter for 2.5 years. And I feel like that really helped me feel good about, the bonding with her and being able to do something for her with my body.
That's
But
amazing.
yeah, it was wild. It was so cool. Yeah. But those feelings are completely valid. I know I've spoken to women before that they do feel the guilt of not being able to carry. And that is just, it's such a valid emotion when you're doing the whole surrogacy journey.
Yeah, and I think everybody's response is different,
Mm-hmm.
depending on where you are in your journey. And, I feel like you were just at the point where you're like, look, I just want my baby safely here, so I will do whatever it takes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's for sure.
So I'm curious I mean, if you don't mind talking about
Yeah.
it, what do they do to like induce lactation when you're not pregnant?
Yeah, that's such a great question, and I love talking about it. So there's a couple different methods you can do. There's a lot of research online. There's Facebook groups Facebook support groups. And so I reached out to a lactation consultant. I also did a lot of research, and I told her about the research that I found. She told me about the research she found. And so the method that we went through was, I even talked to my primary care physician too about it, and my OB-GYN. So what we did was I got on birth control for about 3 to 4-ish months. So I did that right when she hit like the second trimester. And so what you do with the birth control is you don't take the sugar pills, you overlap the pills. So then what you're doing is you're kind of like faking your body out that you're pregnant, right? Because you're not having the period, your hormones, you're kind of faking your body out there. And so I did that for about 3 to 4 months. And then I got off the birth control about 2-ish months before our daughter Stella was due. And I pumped like crazy. Like I had to pump every 2 hours. It was like having a newborn without having a newborn. And I got really lucky that this is weird to say, but like I was working from home because it was like COVID time. So I was able to like pump it between meetings and pump on my break. And, I was waking up in the middle of the night pumping. And that was like that for 2 months. And it took about a month before I started seeing drops and like was actually able to start collecting the milk. And then eventually I was, collecting enough to put it in like a storage bag. And by the time my daughter was born, like I had a good stash frozen at home and my supply was ready for her. So I always joke around that's how she chunked up so fast, because I had like a full supply and she just wasn't ready for it, but she was such a good eater. So yeah. And then she did not want to stop until 2.5 years. I had to kick her off because if it was up to her, she'd probably still be nursing.
I had a similar experience, same age, just had to kick mine off too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She liked to do yoga poses while I was nursing her. So I was like,
Yes.
we're done. Yeah.
It
But like,
becomes not enjoyable at one
no,
point.
it's not. For them it is, but for us, we're like, we're done. But yeah, so it worked out, and it was like, even when she was born, the hospital that the surrogate gave birth at, they were very supportive to my breastfeeding. They helped me latch. They even got me a lactation consultant after our daughter was born. It was, like I said, Estella's birth really kind of showed me that like things could have a good ending and not everything is so scary. So yeah.
And so then you mentioned that you're also pregnant. So
Yes.
how did that go about?
Yeah. So we always wanted, at least 2 kids. And at first, after Estella, we thought we were one and done, like, especially because, she's 4 now. And so we were in a good groove, right? Like, she's getting independent, she's potty trained, like, it's easy just to like, throw her in the car, don't even have to take a diaper bag, live life. But around last year, my husband and I were like, oh, man, like, like we're in our 30s, like, do we want to give this one last shot? How are we feeling? And we were like, let's just try it, right? Let's just do another round of IVF, see how we feel. And so last summer we did an egg retrieval, which don't even get me started on that. My body hates those. And then we did an embryo transfer in the fall. And honestly, again, with my fear, I did not think it was going to work. I thought we would just, let's just see, right? And yeah, the first transfer took. And somehow like we got past that 25-week milestone, which was like the scariest thing to get to. And I worked with a, high risk doctor and everything. And we ended up doing a cerclage. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but I did a cerclage at 12 weeks. Do you know what a cerclage is, or do you want me to explain it?
Yeah, you can explain it. I'm somewhat familiar.
Okay. Yeah. So a cerclage is what they'll use is one of the things they could do for women that have preterm labor, like history of preterm labor. So what it is like a stitch. Like, it sounds so scary, and I don't want to scare anyone from ever having to do it because it sounds scary, but it's not. So it's a stitch that they go in. When I did it, I was under like a spinal, so I was numb from like my belly button down. They go in and they stitch your cervix closed, and it's just to help support like that weight of the baby in your cervix, and just hope to keep that cervix closed. So we did that at 12 weeks, which is the earliest you could do it, and it's been doing its job. So I'm pretty impressed with it right now because we're about to approach 34 weeks. But yeah, so like I said, we kind of were just like, okay, let's try this whole IVF thing again, see if it works. And I told my husband, I can't handle a lot of egg retrieval, so I told him we got one shot, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'm kind of done with this whole worry about fertility thing and doing all the treatments and stuff like that. And great, thankfully, right now we're at the 34-week mark, and we're doing good right now. So
What week did they take the stitch out?
great. Oh, that's a great question, actually. So they take it out around 36 or 37 weeks, depending on like if you're progressing or showing any contractions or anything like that. So currently, since the 32-week mark, I've been doing like the twice a week monitoring. So like I go in for the NSTs, ultrasounds. It's a lot of doctor's appointments, but they'll know. I keep asking like, oh, do we have a date for the cerclage removal? And they said, we'll know by the time you hit 6 weeks during that monitoring appointment. And I'm like, I just want a date. But the removal is way easier. They describe it as like a pap smear, right? Like they go in there, they use the wonderful pap smear tools, and then they just snip the stitch and pull it out. Some women will go into labor like right after or a day or so after. And then some women will make it the full 39, 40 weeks. So it's a waiting game, I guess, from here at this point.
Oh, that's not helpful, especially when you just want to know, like, when's the baby coming?
Yeah, I know exactly. I'm like, we got nothing done right now. So, we have time, or we don't have a lot of time to get a lot of things done. But no, I'm very grateful for the cerclage because it's been doing its job and feeling good about a lot of things right now.
So switching gears a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
when you were first diagnosed with PCOS, do you feel like they like thoroughly explained to you like what PCOS is?
No. So I was like 15 when I was diagnosed, and it was more like, like these irregular, heavy, long periods. You probably have PCOS. We see some cyst on your ovaries type of thing. We're going to put you on birth control, right? Like that's always like the band-aid that doctors want to do. It's just throw birth control. And like, don't get me wrong, I am grateful that it did help me get through high school and college because all my symptoms were, reduced because of the birth control. But I don't think it was explained to me, the other side effects, right? Like it could affect, your fertility. Like I had no idea. Like I thought I was going to get off birth control and be pregnant within 3 months, right? Like, I'm in my 20s, I'm fertile, like I'm going to be great. Everything's going to be good. And then it wasn't, right? When I started trying to get pregnant and, I started noticing that it wasn't working, a lot of doctors would just be like, lose weight and you'll get pregnant, or relax and you'll get pregnant, or give it time, you're young, right? Like there wasn't a lot of like support with, for women, like I feel like for women with PCOS, there's not a lot of support within the medical system. So a lot of the research and a lot of things I do know about PCOS was from myself. And it wasn't until I started going through the IVF process and having doctors actually explain things to me properly.
Yeah, your story sounds a lot like mine. I was diagnosed at 16 and put on birth control, and they're basically like, well, come back when you want to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Nothing about, how I'm more at risk for diabetes,
Yeah.
all of ththese things. I'm like, don't you think these are important things that I should have known?
No, we just got to coast through it, right? Like, yeah, no, it's just, I'm, thankfully being through this, if I have my daughters, get PCOS, like I can, at least be their advocate and their support. But like, my mom and I had no idea what it was, right? We just thought it gave me painful periods and I was miserable, right? Like we had no idea the diabetes risk. We had no idea, the weight gain and fluctuation and causes and other issues, right? Like it was just, okay, cool. Here's birth control. You'll be great. You'll do fine. So, and then I just also feel like with PCOS, a lot of women like get brushed off because it's just more like lose weight and you're going to be great. Like that doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like it's more than just losing a couple pounds, right? Like that's not always the cure all for PCOS, even though a lot of people think it is.
And it's not always easy for people with PCOS to lose weight.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And it's not that we're all eating terrible food all the time and never exercising. It's just really hard to lose the weight.
Exactly. Yeah. I think people forget that, right? It's, your hormones are being affected and those do a lot to your body. And yeah, I feel like that caused a lot of, like just doctors dismissing me when I was trying to get pregnant. And it wasn't until I went to like the fertility clinic where they were like, okay, like you're not ovulating, like you have PCOS, this is what's happening. And then I was like, oh shoot, like this is more serious than I thought it was, right? So it's I wish for better healthcare for women and more research for PCOS and maybe a cure one day, right? Because it's just
that would be amazing.
Yeah, right. We're just not taken seriously, unfortunately, when you have that diagnosis.
And it's frustrating because it's not like it's a rare condition. Like a lot of people have it. So I feel like people should know about it. Doctors should know about it, especially like gynecologists who will for sure see somebody who has it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you would think. Yeah. Like, and then I don't know if you've ever been on metformin, but like that's also another thing they like to slap on to people. And I'm like, I
hate it.
Yeah, I have no gallbladder, so I have issues already. Like I don't want to be on something that's gonna make me like have tummy troubles. Like, and I did try it just to humor my doctor, and it was like a miserable experience. Like it was awful, and it didn't do anything for me.
It didn't do anything for me either, except make me run to the bathroom all the time. I'm like, cool, thanks. This is great.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll lose weight because I never want to eat.
That's exactly how I feel like that's what it does, right? You don't ever want to eat. And yeah, it's just not fun. Do not recommend.
Yeah, I definitely don't either. So what did you use, or like were there any resources or anything like that that you found helpful during your grief of going through both infertility and your losses?
Yeah, so I did join for a little bit. I did join a support group. There was like a virtual support group because it was kind of crazy. Like our daughter passed November of 2019. And then literally right a few months later, the world just changed with, COVID and just social distancing and everything like that. So like not only were we isolated within our grief, but we were also like physically isolated. So I did do some support groups that like specialize in like infant and child and pregnancy loss. And then I did start going back to therapy because when I was going through the infertility, I started therapy and then I stopped. And then after our daughter passed away, I was like, no, I need therapy again. So I started doing therapy again. And that has been always a lifesaver for me. I can't talk highly enough of using therapy as a resource to help you, go through, navigate life. And there was this book that one of my old like college friends sent me called Invisible Mothers. And it was just a book. I can't remember the author, but it was this book where like, it was a bunch of letters for mothers who, they're first time moms and then they lost their first, pregnancy or their first child some way. And so it's like, that concept where, your child's not with you, you're not a mom, right? People think that like, or like, people who don't know you don't understand that you are a mom, you don't have this child earthside, but like you're still a mother. And I think that book really helped me navigate my grief in a sense that like, there was other women that understood the pain I was going through. And, unfortunately, they're in the same situation as me. I don't ever wish child loss or pregnancy loss or anything on anybody, but having these letters, written by these moms who have gone through similar situations and just, them, being encouraging and, showing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and reassuring me that, even though my daughter wasn't earthside, she still made me a mother and I still was a mother. So that book was like my Bible, for a while. I would just reread the letters within that book. And then, to this day, I still do therapy. My husband and I will do, like once a month, we do couples therapy, especially around the time, like the anniversary of her loss and stuff. We make sure that we're doing therapy and we're talking to each other and we're checking in on each other. I guess, a big thing for me is therapy and group therapy and stuff like that. Those were just really helpful for me.
Did your husband also go to therapy, or was he? I know most guys are kind of
Ugh.
like, no.
Yeah, he did. He would do couples therapy with me. So like to this day, we still do it like once a month. We just, kind of check in with each other and the therapist and stuff. And especially during like the high peak season, like peak of the grief. But he never did it like individually. But like you said, it's like, men, they're like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, like, I'm fine.
Yeah, he is really good. Even especially, when she first passed, he was very good at coming to me and like talking to me, about when he had his bad days or, when he was struggling. So that was just something that we always maintained with each other. I was someone that like, I needed therapy to get through it. Like, I don't think there was any way I would have gotten through anything without it. So.
But before your loss, did you know anybody else who had had a loss?
I've known people that have had like, and not a lot, like people that had miscarriages, but it was nothing, no one that actually had like second or later loss, like second trimester or later loss. And it was kind of crazy after I came back to work. So I had my 6th week of maternity leave because I gave birth, and I went back to work, and one of my coworkers pulled me to the side and she was like, not a lot of people know this, but I have a similar story to you. Like, I had a daughter, I went into labor, I think it was around 25 weeks as well. And she told me how, her daughter, she was, she lost her daughter at like 25 weeks. And, me and her just kind of talked about our experience together. And one thing that really stood out to me, she was like, can I see pictures of your daughter? Because, it's like stigmatized, like seeing this little baby connected to all the tubes or things like that. But she asked me to see a picture of my daughter, and she like looked at them and took her time looking at them and told me how beautiful she was and asked me her name. And, like just having someone to kind of just, I don't know if bond is the right word, but like, like have that similar experience to me and reach out to me and be so gentle. It meant so much to me. Like, we just sat there and talked about our babies, and, it wasn't like this, like, oh my gosh, don't talk about her at work thing. Right. Like, for me, when I went back to work, it was like people wanted to avoid eye contact with me, but like she just kind of took me in and was like, hey, been through the same thing. And, like, let's talk about it. But before my loss, I didn't really know anybody that had like a loss like that.
Oh, that makes me like tear up over here. I love that she did that. And I think people just underestimate, like, they think they have to do something grand or giant or for us after loss, but all you have to do is ask to see a picture, ask their name, like talk about them. Like, it's so simple.
Yeah,
Can't do it.
Yeah, a lot of people can't. Like, I feel like losing our daughter has really shaped a lot of relationships that we have with people, both my husband and I, right? Because there were some people that like, oh my gosh, these people lost a daughter, bye, right? Like, they didn't want to deal with that, or it's uncomfortable for them, right? And so it was like those relationships kind of simmered down, right? Like, people that we thought were really close to us, couldn't handle that loss, or they couldn't handle the newly evolved us, like who we were now. And then there's people that, like, they saw us going through this tough time and they stepped up, and they, like you said, it didn't have to be grand gestures, right? It could just be checking up on us, or, even asking us to hang out. Because there were some people that, once we went through this loss, they were like, okay, we're staying far away from these people, right? Yeah, grief can be so isolating, and because it changes those relationships that you have with some people to, it makes you kind of open up your eyes, who's really there for you, or who can handle being there for you, should I say.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm grateful for people that ask about Luna, want to know about her story, like people who say her name and it's not a dirty word to them, right? Like, Luna's here, like, she was our baby, she exists, and we still celebrate her, we still talk about her. Like, to me, she's never going to be a dirty word, she's never going to be a trigger for me. Like, like, I could talk about her all day, like I could show you pictures of her all day, I just wish people, like you said, like, I wish they realized that you don't have to do like these grand big gestures that people who lose children or babies, like, just help, like, say the name, ask for pictures, checking on them during, anniversaries, right? Her birthday and her angelversaries are always hard days for me and my husband. And, we have friends and family who will text us or call us or send us something during those days. And I mean, that support is everything.
So it sounds like you include Luna in a lot of your family things. Are there any like special things that you do like for her angelversary or for her birth date or anything like that?
Usually for like her birthday, we'll do like a family dinner together. And we started her birthday is on November 14th. So we actually decorate the house for Christmas on her birthday,
I love
just to
that.
kind of be like a little celebration. Yeah, our daughter Stella loves that. Like, we talk, like, usually we talk about Luna. We have a couple ornaments for her for the tree, and our daughter loves that. Like, and we're the crazy people with Christmas decorations up early. And then another big holiday we celebrate is Day of the Dead. So we always do like a huge ofrenda or altar for her. And now that our daughter is, big enough to help, like, she loves it. She loves setting up the altar, putting all the candles on it, or like, the little skeletons. And then she'll talk to the altar. Like, she'll, talk about Luna and like how she misses her big sister and that her big sister's in heaven, but we celebrate her. And then sometimes she'll sing to the altar. It's really cute. We try to make like Luna's like life and her memory like a celebration, right? Obviously, it's sad, and I would do anything to have her in my arms again. But like, we try not to be like somber about it. We really try to make it like a celebration of life with her. And our daughter she's all for it, and she loves it. And she tells people about her little big sister. These traditions I feel like help our daughter. I don't know. I don't necessarily think she's navigating like grief, or maybe she is in her own way, but we're teaching her that it doesn't have to be this thing that like completely brings you down, but it could be the celebration of that person that you love.
I love that. I mean, yeah, it's obviously always going to be a sad thing for us, but I
Mm-hmm.
think and I think a lot of people maybe don't think it's okay to have like a celebration instead, like you feel like you have
Mm-hmm.
to just be sad. But I think that we should
Mm-hmm.
celebrate like those moments that we had with them, even if they weren't nearly enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know exactly. So yeah, no, the holiday season, it's fun because that's when we do, like, she was born around Thanksgiving. So that's when we do a lot, in memory of her and honor of her. And we have pictures, of course, of her all over our house. So Stella's grown up seeing that and knowing that. And it also is kind of like a conversation. Like, people that come to our house for the first time, they'll see those pictures and I'll be like, hey, it's okay to ask. Like, I will tell you anything. I'm an open book. Like, there's nothing to be ashamed, for me or for you wanting to know. Yeah, we really do try to make it this celebration of life when it comes to Luna.
So, if you had any advice that you were going to give somebody who's going through either infertility or loss, what would that advice be?
So for infertility, I would say you are your biggest advocate. Like, you have to advocate for yourself, and sometimes you have to fight for yourself, and don't feel bad having to switch up doctors in order to find someone that's going to listen to you. And yeah, I think that's like the big thing for me, because I had to fight for a good doctor. And then for loss, my gosh, there's so much. I feel like I can give like a list of 100 things, right? Like, there's just so much I've learned the last 5 years. I would say lean on that support system. Even when it's hard to do that, like when you don't want to do that, there's going to be people that want to be there for you, and don't feel bad leaning on those people. And especially when it comes to your partner, like, don't lose each other in the grief, right? Like, I feel like it's when you go through something as traumatic as losing a child or a pregnancy, it's just so easy to disconnect from anybody, whether it's your partner or your friends or family. One thing is just to not lose yourself, or lose that, like, that relationship that you have with your partner, especially because you both know exactly how your guys is feeling, right? Like, if there's anybody that understands your grief, it's going to be your partner. And so try not to lose them, or that relationship while you're navigating that grief.
Yeah, I definitely think that is important. I don't know if you've heard like don't remember exactly the number, but it was like maybe half or so of like all couples who have gone through a loss or something traumatic like that, like end up getting divorced. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that's actually true because I feel like most of the time I've seen it bring people closer together.
Yeah, when Luna passed away, the NICU doctor, and she was telling us everything, like just her advice. That was one of the advice she gave us, before we left the hospital was like, don't lose each other. Like this is going to be a hard journey for you guys. People are going to say things that they shouldn't. They're going to say ignorant things to you. It's going to be hard. But if there's anybody that understands what you're going through, it's your partner. Like don't lose that. And sadly, this event has brought me and my partner together, right? Like, because we are the people that understand, that loss together. It made us stronger. But I can also see how, if someone disconnects and the other person's trying to connect, right, how that can cause a huge issue and a huge rift within a relationship.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can see it from both sides too. And yeah, for me too, me and my husband, it brought us closer together, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can
Mm-hmm.
definitely see how it could go either way, honestly.
Oh yeah.
So, is there anything else that you would like to share or add?
My gosh, I'm trying to think.
I know, such an open-ended question.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. And, I hope people that are going through infertility and loss I hate that like the generic thing, like everything will get better and there's a lightning in the tunnel. But, like I think one thing that I learned about grief, right, that someone explained it to me, it was this beautiful way of explaining grief. And it was like, it's kind of like swimming in the ocean, right? Like some days the water is super choppy and you are like fighting to stay on top of that water, right? Like to stay head above water. And some days that water is going to be still and you could float and it's okay and you're managing it. And so I just want people to remember that sometimes that grief, it's not always going to be this drowning grief that it doesn't go away, unfortunately, for most, right? But it does get more manageable and life does get manageable with that grief. And yeah, that's been something that I always, remind myself of. Because even 5 years from now, right, there's days that are very hard for me, but I remind myself that, this is just one of those choppy water days that, eventually that water is going to still and I'm going to be okay.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story with us.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you for everything you do with, all your social media and your Instagram and your rainbow skirt. And it's just like everything you do has made a community that, I know a lot of people benefit from.
Oh, thank you. That means so much to me to hear that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Selina, for sharing your story with us. I wanted to quickly mention that I will be doing the Wave of Light reading again this year. If you aren't familiar, the Wave of Light takes place on October 15th each year. You simply light a candle at 7 p.m. in whatever time zone you are in, and this creates a wave of light around the world to honor all of our babies that are gone too soon. If you would like your baby's name included, you can email me at sarah@journeyforjasmine.com or comment on any of my social media posts on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at Journey for Jasmine. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you like the show, please take a moment to leave a positive review or rating on Apple or Spotify. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, we are all in this together.